I went through some version of the 5 stages of grief after watching Bullet Train. Denial. It was a good movie and a good use of my time. Anger. What a stupid movie. Depression. Why do I even bother going to movies when there's older, better things I haven't seen? Bargaining. Well, at least part of it was good. Acceptance. The final stage of grief would be me making this review. So, Bullet Train. Rather than making you suffer through a bullet training montage, let's get right into things. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. The most I can say is that I watched it. Brad Pitt is a thief who gets on a train in Tokyo to steal a briefcase and get off. What he doesn't know is that the train is filled with several assassins who also want the briefcase.
What am I snatching and or grabbing?
A briefcase.
There's nothing simple about this job.
Something else going on here?
Yeah, I'm not the only one on this train looking for this case.
What follows is 2 hours of violence with twists upon twists leading up to a big reveal of why everything is happening. There's also jokes. In other words, it's a modern Hollywood action movie. The best part of the movie is the visuals. From the trailer, I was interested by the style and setting. It stood out from the sea of superhero movie previews by, well, not being that. All you can get from the trailer is what I just told you. It doesn't highlight every character or every major plot point, so it was, by most regards, a good trailer. But are the visuals more than eye-catching? The movie is polished and slick, and while there's a lot of quick cuts, it doesn't seem to be disguising poor action scenes. But it's not the greatest visuals I've seen. It kept me watching and made me mention them at all. But do I remember any shots that made me really take notice? No. If you haven't picked up on it already, Bullet Train is set in Japan. Despite being based on a book by a Japanese author, in the movie it's all for style. Wouldn't it be wild and wacky to have crime and murder contrasted with someone in a cartoon mascot suit in bright colors? Wouldn't it be cool if organized crime was defined not by drugs and Tommy guns, but by swords and martial arts? Wouldn't it be extra obvious and out of place to have product placement drinks in a foreign country where the labels for them should be different? Scratch that last one. Bullet Train uses Japan as a setting for fight scenes and an action movie plot to happen. But it really could have been set anywhere. That doesn't make the movie bad, it just lacks any real unique identity. It's not like I haven't thoroughly enjoyed other movies that just use Japan as set dressing. How about the characters? Well, this movie certainly has characters. Most of the characters are likable at times, or you're inclined to root for them in some scenes, but in the end they're mostly career murderers, and other scenes will remind you that they aren't really people to pull for. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Like everything else, it's just fine. There's a variety of characters, at least. You have the British one, the imposing crime guy, the old Japanese man, all the characters you could ask for in a violent action movie. There's even threatening phone calls. Delivery of information. This might seem like a weird section of a review, but Bullet Train has a pretty direct method of delivering information outside the dialogue. It certainly meets the show don't tell criteria, but it's never exactly subtle about it either. There's the characters' names, for example, which are said quite often in the dialogue, but are also splashed across the screen when they're introduced. That's not a complaint, it's a stylish touch, but it is very much in your face. The movie will probably come off as very obvious in the way it plants information for the audience. Here's an example from the first scene of the movie. There is a TV on in a room. The camera cuts to focus on the TV. The TV is showing a news report that a dangerous snake has gone missing from the zoo. You get 0 points for guessing that the snake will show up later in the movie. It's not called Snakes on a Train, but when it's the only information being presented in a shot, it's not hard to figure out it's somewhat important information. Themes. One of the main reasons I don't really like this movie much after reflecting on it, it doesn't really have themes. It has things that come up several times but don't build to anything. There are characters with contrasting worldviews, there are character goals that are achieved in ways they did not intend, and there are characters who ascribe events to luck or fate. But I didn't get the overall sense that any of this actually meant anything. If anything, dialogue mentioning luck or fate or anything was just leading to jokes or plot conveniences. There's also really not much character growth. The characters do not change who they are, only their goals change as the plot progresses, and the audience perception of them changes as we learn more about them, usually in flashbacks. This, again, is fine, but it just wasn't particularly interesting or memorable to me. But speaking of flashbacks, Bullet Train does the thing where, when something is revealed, there's a quick flashback to when the information related to this was planted in the audience's mind. This is yet another aspect of the movie that's just fine. Sometimes it made me think, oh, that was clever. Other times it was just unnecessary and felt like it was just there to make sure everyone was still on the same page. Going back to the escaped snake again, when it is discovered on the train, there's a flashback to the TV report. But the character seeing the snake now is not the same character who was watching TV earlier. It's entirely for the sake of the audience, who should have remembered it because it was very obviously planted right at the start of the movie. Music. This movie has a licensed soundtrack. I like that some of the songs are Japanese covers, though this is only the songs that are instantly recognizable. Some others are in English. I will say that the Bee Gees in Japanese is just as much of a bop as the original. But if you've seen the trailer, you've basically seen how it's used in the film. There's nothing extra about how any of the music's incorporated. The songs are fine, but as I've said many times in this review, it's not memorable. One particular song during the finale was extra not memorable for having already been used in the finale of another movie I saw recently. I'm not saying what the other movie was because it would spoil what the song is, and maybe someone else would like the song and the scene, but even though it wasn't like ripping off another recent movie, it just wasn't anything new to me. There was one song I was very surprised to hear, though, 500 Miles. See, it mentions a train, but doesn't really provide any extra meaning for the scene it was played in, beyond the surface level. I don't think it actually fit the mood the scene was trying to go for, but I sure did notice it. If you don't want noticing a song that's playing to really take you out of the movie, I guess that would be a bad thing? I don't think most people even know what song 500 Miles is when I just say the name of it. But overall, what I'm trying to get at is that, as I'm recording this review less than a week after seeing the movie, if I hadn't started writing it immediately, I would have forgotten half the things I'd mentioned here. The movie failed to make a real lasting impression on me. So, final rating, Bullet Train is a 6 out of 10. If you're a Your Movie Sucks fan, I should clarify that that is not equivalent to a 6 out of 10 from him. It's not even the best violent R-rated movie set on a train I've seen this year. That mark goes to Snowpiercer. See Bullet Train if you want to be entertained for 2 hours, but that's about all it's good for.